So we will resume with uh, what we were discussing regarding. Yeah, we will resume with our discussion. Now we have started with the next topic that we'll be covering will be with respect to the next topic of coverage will be about the role of a governor in the state. Now, on this topic, one thing you should remember is like this is a very traditional question which UPSC asks, and you can see two previous questions also in this regard. Now, first is about earlier UPSC had asked about the political tussle between the Lieutenant Governor and elected government of the Delhi, and the other question which it asked recently in 2022 was about essential conditions for exercising of legislative power by the governor and related to his powers for making ordinances under Article 123. Now in this particular piece of information that has been provided to you, now the context of the information is about what we have seen with respect to the recent developments in the state of Kerala, where you have seen the Kerala government who has come in kind of a standoff with the elected government over the appointments in the Kerala University. Now this issue hints towards what issues a governor might have with respect to the functioning of the government in the state. Now, in a question on governor, this particular incident can be used as an example also. Like suppose you are asked a question on the role of governor, and in that you can use this particular incident to show what kind of issues you see in the functioning of the democracy. And the other question could be directly talking about the governor in this aspect. Now you all are aware, like in our constitution, the governor's role is defined under the articles, right? That is in our part 5 under the chapter of governor. I think part 6, sorry, under the chapter of states. In this it talks about the power of the governor. Part 5 is with respect to the union government, and in this part 6 it talks about the role of governor. And you all are aware that it is said that he will be, that is the state government, or sorry, the governor acts in aid and advice of the state government. But at the same time you are also aware that the governor is given a dual role, whereby he acts as an agent of the union government as well as he acts as the head of the state. Now on this various judgments are there which kind of gives clarity on what the role of governor should be. The first important judgment should be, or the relevant judgment is the Shamsher Singh case of 1974, whereby the governor is said to be custodian of all executive and other powers, and he should exercise them with the formal constitution in accordance of the ministers. Second important case is the Nabam Rabia case, in which the Supreme Court ruled that it does not give the governor general discretionary powers to act against or without the advice of the Council of Ministers. Then in the Mahabir Prasad case, it was said that the withdrawal of the governor's pleasure must coincide with the withdrawal of support to the ministry by the assembly. Now this kind of gives you clarity about the kind of functioning between the governor and the council of ministers at the state level or the state government in general. Apart from this, we also see various commissions, and two important commissions with respect to this for the federal relations as well as on the governor are the Sarkaria Commission and the Punchi Commission's report. Now in this Sarkaria Commission, it was proposed that when we are talking about the Vice President of India and Speaker, when we are talking about the selection of governors, it was said that the Prime Minister should consult with the Vice President, or what we see, like he also acts as the Deputy Chairman of the Rajya Sabha and the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. They should also be consulted in the selection of governors. This is one of the opinion, so that there is less discretionary aspect, or you have more of a institutional mechanism to elect or select your governor. And second was about the Punchi committee, which recommended that there should be deletion of the doctrine of pleasure, but the right of the governor should be there to sanction the prosecution of ministers against the advice of the state government. And second, it also asked for a provision for the impeachment of the government by the state legislature, something similar to the provision of the president by the union government. Now these were like, now this committee's recommendations or opinions could form a part of your opinion if the question ever comes whereby you are asked about how this office should evolve. Then apart from your personal opinions, you should also try to include these opinions by the committees and the commissions, right? Now moving ahead, now in local bodies, and again here I like to stress one important aspect when you talk about federalism in India. Federalism in India, we talked earlier, you have the union government or the central government, then you have the state governments, and one important dimension of your federalism is even your local self-governing bodies are part of the federalism. You should never forget this aspect of federalism, that even your local self-governing bodies are also part of the federal structure in India. And when you talk about the functioning of this federal structure, one important element is about representation of the women. We are aware that with the 73rd and the 74th constitutional amendment bills, right, or the 72nd and the 73rd constitutional amendment act, we have given an assured representation for the women in the local self-governing bodies, whereby 1/3 seats were reserved for the women, and in some of the states it is also even 50%. And in many states, despite just 1/3 seats reserved for them, you see that the representation of women in the local self-governing bodies have crossed the 50% mark also, right? So in this you see that when you talk about women, we are having around 31 lakh or 3.1 million elected representatives, right, and around 1.3 million are women. That is like more around, you can say 40%, and at the same time in some of the states it is even more than the 50%. So this tells you about how your mechanism that you developed or you conceptualized around local self-government bodies, they have developed over the period of time. And some of the important or some of the good practices which you say are about the Kerala, which has devolved around 29 of its functions to the panchayats, and now Bihar has come out with the idea of a panchayat sarkar, and some states like Odisha have increased representation to 50% of seats. Now these good practices, they help you in terms of fetching the extra marks or the extra half marks or 1 mark that you talk about in your answers. You should always try to include these good practices even when you're writing your answer from the aspect of an opinion. Now next, moving ahead, there is a question on statutory bodies or constitutional bodies. In this, two initiatives have been, you have a report which was in the Hindu regarding the National Commission of Women. The link is in the what I say is inserted with this heading, the National Commission for Women, and this is telling you about what are the initiatives that the National Commission of Women has taken in recent years. Now the question that you will be asked on bodies is generally about the critical examination on the effectiveness of these bodies, or how far they have been able to achieve the mandate or the objective with which they were established. This will be the nature of the question that will be asked. Now, in this, what you have to do is, now what I can recall is there was a question in 2017 regarding what I say regarding the constitutional regarding the National Commission for Women, and in that you had to somehow comment upon how effective they had been in terms of ensuring the rights for the women. Now, when you are writing a question on this, on the critical examination, like when you are critically examining, you might write the criticisms about it, but at the same time you have to also balance the criticism with the steps or the initiatives that they have taken, so that you infuse optimism or positivity in your answer, right? So that optimism will be coming when you are able to write what steps they have taken in the recent times or in the recent years. Now in this you can see some of the steps which have been mentioned, and this is how you to utilize what is given here in terms of what you will be writing. Now next we are moving towards SSGs. Again, you had a piece of information in the PIB in the month of October, and in that this news item they had talked about some of the initiatives about the SSG, and in this it talked about Saras Food Festival in 2022, and it also talked about the e-commerce portal for the better and effective marketing of states, right? So this is like, for SSG, the question that you will be asked will be somewhere about what is the role of SSGs, or how effective they had been till now. So in that you can say that you are seeing the participation in terms of SSGs, and at the same time you can say the government is also taking steps in order to further bolster or further strengthen the role that they had envisaged for the SSGs. And in this could be quoted as one of the examples whereby the government has taken steps in recent times whereby it can strengthen the SSG movement in India, right? And at the same time you are also given a data around it whereby it tells about there are around 8 crore or roughly 9 crore women working in the SSGs, and they have presence in around 97% of the blocks, right? So this could be used in terms of getting a background about the SSGs with related to this. Now next we are moving towards, now in this paper 2 what we are left with is what is the topics of say governance and the topics of vulnerable section, right? When you talk about vulnerable section, you will be talking about children, right? Then in health, that is about your social sector, health, sanitation, education, right? Issues related to that. Then apart from this, we are left with the topic of governance, and then we will be moving towards the international relations. In today's this interaction, we will try to wind up by completing this what I say, this vulnerable section part, and then we might go into some of the specific doubts which some of you have asked. Now talking about this vulnerable section, children के ऊपर आपको एक रिपोर्ट आई है स्टेटस ऑफ चिल्ड्रन राइट्स, जिसमें आपको ये बताया गया है कि in 2021 around 1.5 lakh cases were recorded about the accidental death and suicides against children. You had reported these many. Then apart from this, you are also having some information about issues related to girl child. First, you all are aware infanticide and ferticide, right? Now you are aware in this, you have seen that 3 million missing girls. This you can quote when you have to quantify this particular issue. Then when you talk about child marriage, you might quote this also. You have seen around 15 lakhs child marriages per year, although you have seen a marginal decline in them in recent years, right? Then you also see that girls out of school are 3 point more likely to be married, right? So it also relates you with the topic of child education, with the overall development of a girl child. The next, moving ahead, we are moving towards child abuse. In this, there is an operation carbon. And this in operation carbon, it is what they are trying, right? Recently they have started with the Meg Chakra, whereby they are checking the online circulation and sharing of child sexual abusive material, right? So this you can quote as the initiatives or steps being taken by the government in recent years to arrest or to uphold the rights of the, what I say, the children in this aspect, right? तो अब इसके बाद लाइक जो आपको यहाँ पे जो इन्फॉर्मेशन दी गई है, दिस यू कैन यूज़ इफ एवर यू कम अक्रॉस ए क्वेश्चन जहाँ से आपको चाइल्ड राइट्स के स्टेटस के बारे में कोई क्वेश्चन पूछा जाता है, ठीक है? सो इन नेक्स्ट